everybody, welcome back to my channel. Over the last few days I've been creating some content for kind of more deeper, very highly you could even say offensive positions on unspoken, kind of like taboo areas, taboo topics, controversial discussions, various types of different areas of life that we have thoughts on, but we don't often reveal what they are to most people. If ever. And so today's video will be similar in many ways, but also a little bit different because rather than focusing sort of specifically on taboos in terms of like controversial social or cultural or political factors or even medical areas of society, where there aren't really any easy, sort of nice solutions to these dilemmas. Today's video I will be looking at 50 unpopular beliefs, and I'll be telling you whether I align with them or not. And kind of similar to what I have done in my past few videos. I'm thinking there's probably going to be one or two more after this, and that will be the end of it. I hate to say the word series, but I guess that's what this could be classed as. So, yeah. I just thought that it would be nice, instead of kind of just picking one thing to talk about, which is usually the case or has been on my channel for a while, and talking about that. I mean, really most of the time talking about my personal life, if I'm being honest. Whereas in today's video I'm going to be talking about a whole range of different things. I'm going to give you kind of a bit of a context for it, and then a kind of question that you can leave your own comments about, your own answers to, and I'll be interested in reading the responses, because obviously everyone's got their own thoughts about the things that I'm going to talk about right now. So let's get on with it, shall we? Stop wasting time. So yeah, like I said, there's going to be 50 unpopular beliefs that I'm going to go through. I hope within the next hour and a half. I would like to try and avoid having to. I would like to avoid making longer videos if I can, but it's not always easy. Sometimes you kind of get into the flow of things, and before you know it, we're on 2.5 hours. So it is what it is. I'm doing my best, and let's get going. So number one is true altruism doesn't exist. All acts are ultimately selfish. In my opinion, the only real non-selfish acts in this world, I believe, are between parents and their children, really, because they often or between. That's not strictly true. There are certainly many different types of non-selfish acts in the world, but I think the vast majority of things that people do really, in my opinion, are selfish. that they're driven by selfish needs and desires. For whatever reasons, it might just be that people want to make themselves feel better. Maybe they want something. Maybe there's money involved. Maybe they're trying to get access to some resources. It might be women. It might be, I don't know, trying to build a friendship with somebody through someone else or something. It could be anything. So as far as actual non-selfish acts go, I think there's only really a few that come to my head. First of all, it's between parents and their children. Often parents sacrifice a lot of things for the children because they want their children to have better lives. I would say things like maybe like organ donation. That's not selfish, is it? It's like you're doing that for somebody else. Giving blood. Medical trials, things like that. I don't think those are unless it depends. Like if you're doing it purely on a voluntary basis and you're not getting paid for it or something, then fair enough. But as far as like if there's some incentive to do anything, then obviously it's selfishly driven motivation, isn't it? Really, you're doing it for some reason. So it says here, are we wired for self-interest even when being kind? I don't really believe in a lot of the time in true kindness. I think a lot of people often have hidden motives, hidden agendas, and of course you can't generalise. You can't say that that's just everybody's selfish. Everybody's doing things for their own benefit, their own good, or their own some advantage to it in some way. But I think for the most part, that is, I'd say probably that's pretty much human nature, really, for the most part. Yes, there are obviously exceptions, but I would say in general, most people do things out of, people don't want to have a guilty conscience, do they? People want to feel that they're good people, that they're doing something, that they've got some level of morality, some level of, ethical conscience and all this kind of stuff. So that's what I have to say about that, really. Number 2, some people are naturally inferior in certain areas, no matter how hard they try. Yeah, we live in a society now where we're all told that we're all, we all operate on an equal playing field. We're all somehow, there's somehow equality and all this nonsense, this whole war political bombardment that's happened over the last few years, that everyone's the same, men and women are exactly the same, all men are equal, all women are equal. It's bullshit. It's not true, is it? There's obviously some people that are far more intellectual than others. Some people are more skilled, some people are more talented, some people are more creative, artistic, more cunning, financially speaking, let's say. Some people are more naturally sort of business-minded. So it's not to say that people shouldn't be equal. Of course, when we're talking about law, there shouldn't be any double standards. Everyone should be on an equal playing field when it comes to law. I would imagine pretty much for the most part. But when it comes to like actual skills and like cognitive abilities, things like that, then of course people aren't equal. It's like, it's just one of those uncomfortable truths. It's just a fact. You can get a group of 50 people, some of them will be better at this, some of them will be better at that, some of them will be incompetent in this situation, some of them won't have enough confidence, some of them will outright fail before they even get going. So it's just, it's one of those dark realities, unfortunately, that there are people who are better than me. I accept that. There are people smarter than me, more competent at certain things, better looking, more interesting, more knowledgeable, more educated, etc., etc. So it's just a fact. You can't get away from it. And then, of course, you could even extend that to sort of certain disabilities, certain mental health problems, certain physical disabilities, illnesses that can, sort of make people incompatible in certain situations, and you know, unfortunately they'll never go into certain sectors, certain industries because of this or that. You know, you could also say that some cultures, some societies are more superior, some are less, some are inferior to others, etc., etc. Political systems even. Number 3, freedom of speech should include even the most offensive ideas. You see, I've grappled with this over the years. It's like, of course, I don't want anyone to resort to violence, or really, I don't want to see unrest of any kind, to be honest. I don't really think violence is... I mean, in an ideal world, there wouldn't be any violence, there wouldn't be any confrontation, there wouldn't be any arguments that lead to, you know, that end up in people assaulting each other and, you know, people getting violent. But that's just the reality of human nature, unfortunately, especially between men, where there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition for especially for women, and all, you know, there's so much bitterness and resentment and toxicity between men and women, and between men and men, between women and women, and you know, and over the last few, say, 20, 30 years, certainly in England, there's been a real push for political correctness, for more and more sort of extreme, bordering on extreme, so-called liberal policies, ideas, you know, trying to shut down, censor people, blacklist people, you know, ruining people's careers, like comedians, you know, social commentators, whatever it might be, political figures. And I don't think that's right. It's like, just because you disagree with someone, just because you don't like someone's ideas about something, especially when it comes to something as controversial as politics, it's like, should we ban? You know, but I mean, what do we mean by offensive? What does that word even mean? It's like, because it's what's offensive to you might not be to me, and vice the other way around. You know, it's like, so it's very subjective. Nobody can really say for sure what is the actual definitive nature of something that's offensive or not. It's like, some people might say, well, when my feelings are hurt, well, that's you. That's on you. That's your mentality. That's how you've somehow interpreted the world and decided that, oh, I don't like this. This should be banned because I feel certain emotions and have horrible, uncomfortable thoughts because you said something that I don't like and I don't agree. Well, tough shit. That's the world we live in. People have said all sorts of offensive shit to me over the years, but I never once tried to ban them out of society, or like, you know, eliminate them off the face of the earth or something, because I didn't like what they said or I didn't like what they did. It's like, yeah, I thought they might be a bit of a shitty individual, but again, that's still a subjective thing. So it doesn't matter. It's purely subjective. Now, of course, when you're talking about, you know, singling like a group out, or like scapegoating someone, or like discriminating against an entire group of people over something where there's hardly any evidence towards it, or bordering on targeting a whole group on racial grounds and religious grounds, on their sexuality, on their gender, whatever it is, and like heading towards acts of violence or even genocide and things like that, then of course, then you have to say at that point, it's like, of course there has to be some kind of a line drawn somewhere, I guess, and that's why I would draw it, is when it starts to become, but I don't know, it's difficult because there's a difference between saying something and doing something. I could say right now I'm going to kill somebody, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do it. So should I be banned then? Should I have my Facebook deleted and be banned off all social media because I said one thing that I didn't mean, and was taken, something that was taken out of context because some fucking overly sensitive twat decided that the context of that situation, what I was talking about, who I was with, where I was at, didn't matter in the moment. I don't know. This is a really difficult, tricky one because, I suppose it really comes down, where do you draw the line? Where is the line drawn between... I don't know. I don't know, but I certainly don't think, ruining people's careers over one or two things they said on a social media post, or they said in their comedy, their stand-up gig, or whatever it might be. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and those people just need to grow up. Seriously. So do I think that freedom of speech should include offensive language or offensive ideas? I suppose, yes, probably, because it does, as long as you're not actually doing anything that ends in people getting hurt, like physically hurt, or people getting killed or injured in any way, then I don't. It's like, nobody wants to live in an unpleasant society. Nobody wants to be surrounded by people saying horrible, mean, offensive things about you and other people, or sort of people trying to rubbish your ideas or your thoughts or your beliefs or everything. But that's the world we live in. That's just the reality of it. There's things have said to me that I didn't agree with, I didn't like, But I'm sure that I've probably offended a lot of people over the years, on and off, whether intentionally or not. That's called being an adult and growing up and being, just accepting that's the nature of it. Number 4, most people secretly enjoy gossip and drama. Absolutely people do. Why? Well, probably because people's lives are boring. Most people's lives are tedious. They don't really have any real meaning, purpose. I suppose a lot of people kind of just wake up every day, myself included, and it's just the same shit, isn't it? The same thing, day after day after day after day. So it doesn't surprise me that people get off and gossiping about people and getting involved, either directly or indirectly, with drama of some sort, whether it's within the family, the social circle, whether it's in the room, whether it's with their partners, or whatever the fuck it is, at work. I mean, that's one of the real big ones. I saw it a lot when I used to work in schools here in Thailand. And you just wouldn't believe the amounts of just petty, melodramatic, just bullshit that you face all the time. Office politic types of crap, and I think often it's born out of boredom, a lack of fulfillment in life, a lack of joy, and I suppose there probably is an evolutionary aspect to it as well, in terms of knowing what that tribe's doing, and sort of making it just sort of a self-preservation thing, I suppose, where learning sort of techniques and things that you've heard from others, or sort of being wary of other tribes. I mean, I suppose there's an element of that in it as well. But yeah, I personally don't like getting involved. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I've never gossiped before, I've never been involved in some drama, because I have. Most people have. But these days, I have absolutely no desire for it at all. I genuinely mean it. I'm not interested at all. Often it's down to people's insecurities. That's what it comes down to. People are insecure, people are unfulfilled, people are not satisfied at home, in their relationships, with their friends, at work, and people seek an outlet, I guess. And often for some people that's drama and gossiping, unfortunately. Number 5, romantic love is mostly a chemical illusion. Well, that's a fact anyway. That's just a scientific fact. Oxytocin, dopamine, all that kind of stuff, adrenaline. I think when you're talking about, when you're talking about sort of younger love, let's say when you're sort of in your later childhood years, your teenage years, that sort of what people call like puppy love, that kind of, sort of over the top kind of romantic nonsense stuff. We've all been there once or twice. That's a really a purely chemical kind of based love. It's that, you know, overdrive of emotions. But I think when you get older, you know, I think love kind of is more about, if love is a real thing, which I honestly kind of question anyway, if it does exist, then I suppose you could say it's more about, I think it's more like about sacrifice and doing things because you want somebody else to be happy, you want somebody else to feel connected in a way and to feel happy even though you might not. Like, sometimes it's about doing things for other people. It's more like a kind of, I don't want to use the word servitude, but you know, it's kind of like a, it's more about doing things for other people rather than yourself, I suppose. You know, especially when you get older and you know, you might have to look after your partner, or you might have to, like, for example, look at taking care of your parents when they get old, or when somebody in your close family gets sick or something. That, to me, that's real love. Giving up your time, giving up your finite, precious time, resources and energy for someone that you genuinely care about. And I would do that for my family if whatever, when that happens. To me, that's what love is. You know, it's someone not putting their parents in a care home. It's someone, you know, not immediately looking to get a divorce because they've had a few bad days or they're going through a bit of a rough patch. That's what love is. It's not. I mean, yes, of course, intimacy, sex, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, nobody denies that that's a part of it in romantic relationships. But that's not the only form of love. You know, you can have love for your animals, your pets. You know, you can have love for your house. You know, taking care of the things that you own, that you've worked hard for. Love for your career. You know, so there are different aspects of it. But yeah, romantic love, I think, initially in those first few months, the first year or two, whatever, that's basically just, it's just a flood of emotions. 6, most charities are more about image than impact. Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with this. The thing is, the vast majority of money that gets donated to, look, I'm not saying all charities. I'm sure there are a lot of decent charities out there, but I think the bigger ones, the more well-known charities around the world, I think, you know, often with charities, initially there's a lot of good intentions there. You know, people want to do something worthwhile. They want to do something, you know, want to be involved in some kind of humanitarian aid of some sort, you know, or helping to reduce inequalities or unfairness, corruption, you know, abuse, neglect, you know, whatever it might be, malnutrition, you know, natural disasters that lead to all sorts of you know, problems and, you know, diseases and all sorts of things, lack of food. I think people who set up charities usually do it with good intentions. But I think over time, when those charities start to become multi-million pound businesses, the thing is, it's always the case. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, once money's involved to a certain extent, it's just game over. It's just a matter of time before corruption seeps into it. And you know, I mean, how many decades have we seen, you know, advertisements for various charities for Africa or you know, like maybe like South America, for example. And yet you still see them on YouTube today. It's like, where's all this money going? Because it clearly it's not. Doesn't seem to be making much of a difference, does it? You know. So you know, begs the question. You know, are these charities really? Are they really giving the money to where it's supposed to be going to, or are people getting backhanders and pocketing the money? Most of the money that's supposed to be going to the people that really need it, and I would say that probably that's the reality of it. And it is mostly about image, about keeping up that image to keep the money rolling in. 7. Monogamy is unnatural for most humans. I actually touched on this in a previous video. I think polygamy is probably, I personally think, is a more natural way of living, I think, for men, I think. Although I would say in today's world, especially with the younger generation, you know, those people on OnlyFans and Tinder and all that, you know, this excessive, this you know, just over the top, you know, modern dating culture. If you have dating, whatever that means anymore. I just don't think it's working anymore. I think at one time people stuck together and it worked. You know, like, I mean, you only have to go back to say like the 40s or 50s, let's say, and you know, when people were getting married then, most of them were probably would have been still together, you know, 10, 20 years ago, I'd imagine. If not, if some of them probably still today, maybe. But I think times have changed. You know, attitudes, beliefs about love and monogamy, or however you want to pronounce it. I just don't think we live in that world anymore. We don't live in that world of conservative values anymore. We live in an open, liberal society where basically essentially anything goes now. If you want to have 2 free girlfriends, up to you. If you want to marry 2 men, 3 men, up to you, kind of thing. It doesn't, you know, there's no standard anymore. There's no values. Nobody seems, I don't want to be crude, but nobody seems to give a shit anymore about anything. It's like, you know, that stuff would have been frowned upon only a few decades ago. I mean, even probably in the 70s, 60s, that would have been frowned upon. Oh, look, here's another life, here's a mystery. I mean, it was going on, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. I just don't think it works, really. I don't think marriages work anymore. There's too much. I think often women now probably have a lot. There's a wider field out there for options for men than they ever used to be. You know, like at one time you had to go to, you know, a bar or a nightclub, or you might just meet someone through work or something. Now there's untold number of websites. You know, you've got social media now, and also there's untold numbers of pornography sites as well. So to me, it's never been easier to give up on that kind of more traditional conservative based value of a life, really. So I don't think going forward that most people are going to stick with one person for the rest of their life. I think those days are gone, really, which is, it's sad. It's a shame. I mean, are we forcing unnatural relationships due to social norms? Probably. A lot, you know, I mean, there's still a degree of, you know, kind of traditional values and all that kind of stuff, conservatism, if you like. But it's nowhere near what it used to be. Nowhere near. Number 8, life has no inherent meaning. Well, I kind of touched upon this. I think it was in part 2, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. I think as I'm getting older, I'm kind of becoming it's like a bit soppy about things and a bit more emotional about things, but also I'm kind of becoming a little bit, and what I mean by that is, you know, it's like I'm kind of looking for meaning, but I'm sort of gradually coming towards the kind of the conclusion that there might not be any, you know, that it very well could be that, you know, the Big Bang and whatever happened before that, it's just a natural, you know, physical manifestation of nature. You know, it just is what it is. There's no plan, there's no purpose, there's no intentions behind any of it. It's just things have happened, you know, the conditions were there, chemical makeup was there for certain planets to develop life. Some probably most of them don't. Ours did. Ours evolved. There is, single cell organisms and multiple cell organisms, and complex life, and eventually intelligent life for various millions of years of evolution and various cosmic and natural events on Earth. And here we are still as Homo sapiens. And so, I wouldn't, in terms of is there any meaning to the universe in and of itself? I don't know. It depends how you look at it, I suppose. Sometimes I think it does seem an awful crazy kind of coincidence, that we're here and I don't know. It's weird. I kind of, part of me thinks there might be some kind of meaning, maybe somewhere, but then again, you think of how vulnerable the life is and how many things have gone extinct and how indifferent the universe is. It doesn't care about life, really. It can create it but doesn't care about it. It's just a kind of natural. Whether it's a fluke or not is debatable, I don't know, until we find other planets with life on them. But for the meantime, there's basically nothing else out there, is there? And there might be some things under the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, perhaps, maybe. Maybe even some kind of bacteria of some sort, or some single-celled organisms, maybe. Perhaps on other planets in our own solar system, but as far as that, we don't know anything else. We don't know what's truly out there. Yes, we found, a few thousand exoplanets. I'm sure there's probably millions of them in our own galaxy, and obviously there's trillions of galaxies out there. So there's probably the life out there, but as far as whether meaning exists here or anywhere else in the universe, I really don't know the answer to that question. Part of me thinks there might be somewhere, maybe there's some kind of other layers, planes of existence somehow. I don't know how to explain it. Or maybe it's just nothing. That's it. It's just the universe, and that's it. And once it dies, and that's it. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know what the answer to this is. And I think nobody will for the foreseeable future. Not even the most intelligent, knowledgeable of scientists and astrophysicists and all the rest. Okay, so next one is humans are not special. Well, it kind of comes back to the last thing, really, meaning. I think humans are special because there's no other species like us on Earth. Okay, yeah, there are great apes, there are other great mammals on Earth, like elephants, there are great ocean animals like dolphins and whales, great intelligence, ability to learn things. So we are special because as far as we know, there aren't any other human species out there. There's none in our solar system. There might not be anywhere in the galaxy, in the whole universe. There might not be any other humans. So maybe we are special. I don't know. But are we like the most special animals on Earth? I don't think so. Personally, I think elephants are special. I think whales are special. I think dolphins are. I think my pets, my dogs are special to me. So that comes down to meaning. What is it to have meaning? What does anything mean? Is it just what we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel less nihilistic about life? Is it just a coping mechanism? I think we want to be liberated, don't we? We want to feel free. We want to feel. We don't want to feel trapped by our own thoughts, by our own darkness, by our own defeatism. By our own dark curiosity and the potential that there isn't anything about this life, this world, ourselves, that was special or really has any true value or meaning to it, apart from what we project onto the world. You know, what we say, what we think, but that doesn't mean that it's true. You know, I mean, from a biological point of view, you might say that yes, humans are quite special because we have quite a large brain. You know, we developed, you know, because of our intelligence, our creativity, our diet. We developed bigger brains, and so we developed different over a very, very long period of time. Different parts of our brains developed and evolved, and so we developed things like art and society, civilization, and the various things that come with that. So we are special in that way because, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any other species that does that. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. Certainly not in our solar system. There might be others out there in the galaxy, maybe, possibly, but I doubt it. It could very well be what Brian Cox said, that there's maybe one civilization per galaxy. I mean, could be. That might be the case. I mean, how depressing is that? Are we special? Yes and no. We're special in our journey, our survival, our adaptability, our creativity, our intelligence. But from a kind of animal perspective, not really. I mean, we're pretty weak. We're pretty vulnerable creatures, really. Take us out of our houses and our societies and culture for too long, and we've got nothing. We can't survive. Most people can't survive in the jungle, in the forest. Stuck on some island somewhere. Most people would die very quickly. So we're not special in compared to a lot of other species. Highly evolved, highly adapted. Thanks to natural selection. But we're special. We're special in the fact that we don't need those things because we had an alternative way of living. Thankfully, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Number 10, children aren't innocent. Yeah, absolutely, they're not innocent. In fact, a lot of children are nothing but attention seekers, liars, manipulative creatures, and yeah, bullies. Actually, a lot of them are bullies when they're young. It's like, and I think, and the thing is children are cunning. They learn from a very early age to get their own way. They have leverage over their parents, and they know that. Even when they're like 2 or 3, they might not be able to verbalise it, but they cry. They can scream. They can do things that they get. There's some stimuli there. There's some. They've developed. Obviously it's not just down to the individual child. It's something that's happened to our species over a very, very long period of time, and so we just naturally babies have not babies, infants rather. Let's say young children, and later older children they're very manipulative. They're very cunning, yeah, and so they're not innocent in that sense. But I mean, are they innocent in terms of their naivety and I mean, they don't know any better, do they? Really, it's just that's how they've learned to handle life because they couldn't deal with it in any other way. So you could say they're innocent because they don't have any other coping mechanisms. They don't know anything different. They don't know anything else. But also, after a certain point, children aren't innocent at all. They know exactly what they're doing, and at a certain point, they know what's right from wrong. If they got decent enough parents, they know what's moral and what's not. For the most part, on a very basic, simple level. So the answer to that is no. They're not innocent after a certain age. I'd say after sort of 6-7 years old, they're not innocent at all. And often the more trouble than the worse. And I'm sure my parents, at times when I was younger, probably probably had all sorts of thoughts about me and my siblings, and we certainly weren't innocent, I can tell you that. Not necessarily bad, but certainly not innocent. By no means, by no way, by any means. Number 11, some people don't deserve forgiveness. I kind of already covered that one. Was that one in the I think it was in the last video, part 3. But it says here, is it healthy or harmful to forgive everything? I don't think it is. I think there's sometimes where you just have to keep people at arm's length. You have to have a kind of distant relationship with people in some ways, I think, at some certain points. I think if people break your trust and people disrespect you, then I think, or people steal from you, or slander you, smear you, will try and ruin your character for some reason or other, then I don't think they deserve your forgiveness. Sometimes when you forgive people, they see that as a green light then to do it all over again and try and prey on your vulnerabilities and weaknesses. So sometimes the best thing you can do is say, I don't forgive you and I'm not going to forget what you did. I'll give you a chance or two, but I don't forgive you. I'm just willing to try and see if I can build your trust again. And if I can't, then that's that, and that's the end of it. It's done. That's it. So some people should never, I don't think, some people should never, ever be forgiven. Don't ever give people that sense of empowerment that they've somehow gotten away with things, or somehow you've forgotten about certain things, because you haven't. Number 12, human rights are made up. I mean, everything's made up. Everything concerning rules, laws, guidelines, policies, etc. Legislation. It's all made up. It's something I think about a lot. I was just in an immigration office here in Thailand the other day, and I was thinking about exactly this kind of thing. Just how much utter nonsense it all is. Just how this is official because it has this stamp. This is official because it's signed by this individual. This is official because it has this symbol at the top. All this kind. This is official because it has these letters and specific numbers combined together. It has this specific type of language. It's just all this nonsense. That this is legitimate. This is an official document. And you just think to yourself, it's just all utter crap. It's just all bullshit. All just utter garbage, red tape, bureaucratic crap. And as far as human rights are concerned, it's like, yeah, they're made up, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have some form of protection against, the ills of humans, that can inflict untold damage and pain and misery and suffering upon other human beings. Obviously, on animals as well, and on the planet, and the environment, and all the rest of it. So, rights really there because most people are willing to play along, essentially. It's not because people believe it, but people are willing to play along with it because it benefits them in some way, and that's essentially what it comes down to in the end. It's not so much that, that there's some, universal truth to rights of humans or anything, that some, it's written into the universe or anything. Of course not, that's ridiculous, but we all agree to abide by the law because it benefits us in some way, or at least because there's, we know what the alternatives are when we don't follow, when we don't abide by the law, when we don't respect the rules, when we don't respect human rights. So, we're all playing the role. We're all playing our part in the social contract. That's just the nature of the game in the modern world, and has been for quite some time. Because it's easier, it's more comfortable, it's convenient, it avoids us having to deal with a lot of very uncomfortable dark truths and realities of human interactions and the darker parts of our minds, the darker part of human nature in general, that is often that we don't particularly like each other, we don't particularly get along, and would rather not be around each other if we can avoid it, really. We might like talking to people, but we don't particularly want to be around people for too long, too much, unless there's some advantage to it in some way. So no, rights don't have some, there isn't really some God-given right to having human rights, but I think it benefits everyone. It's it's called beneficence or something like that. Justice, social, justice and all that kind of thing. It's better for it's better for people to at least pretend to have empathy and compassion and essentially play the social interaction game, for the sake of peace and civility, and to avoid conflicts and drama wherever you can. Of course, nobody wants to live in a world where people are targeted and suffer miserably at the hands of a human, because we've seen that in the past. It's a stain on human history. You open any history book about humanity and you see untold events throughout history of warfare, of genocide and all the rest of it. And that's essentially why human rights are there, because we know what we're capable of as a species. And we all are actually, I think, probably capable of it under the right situations, under the under desperation, under pressure. I think a lot of people would do things, horrific things probably. So thank God that human rights do exist. Now, as far to the extent where human rights become an issue politically, in terms of immigration policies and things like that, that's where things start to break down, and that's where you start to have some serious concerns about what should be considered to be a human right or not. So, but anyway, that's a whole different discussion. But so that's that. 13, hard work rarely leads to success. I think a lot of the time success is built off the back of how willing you are to become morally bankrupt, in my opinion. I think if you're willing to grift, if you're willing to hustle, if you're willing to step on people to get to where you want to be and to screw over people, to lie, to be manipulative, to to use people essentially, then success will come to you. But also you've got to have a plan. You've got to have intelligence. You've got to have money. You've got to know the right people. You've got to get access to certain places and people through people, and it can be a really messy journey to success. And by the time some people get to success, they realise that it wasn't worth it, and that they've become a shell of the person that they used to be, and that they are actually not particularly very pleasant people at all. I think some of it is down to your character. Yes, it is down to having the right knowledge and skills, but it's also down to opportunities and people opening certain doors for you, or you being willing to open certain doors, being brave, and saying things and doing things that you might not really want to do, but you do it because you know that that's what you've got to do to get success, even though you might later regret it. Well, not everybody regrets it. Some people have no sense of shame or regret or guilt whatsoever. So, especially, a lot of the people that are really seriously rich in this world, some of those people are the most vile, just utter vile people you could ever possibly meet. And the things that some of those people have done to get to where they are. I wish them all the best. I have no intentions of going down that poison, poison chalice kind of route, and making people kind of take cyanide to get to where you want, essentially, that kind of thing. Not interested. I think a lot of it's really just down to, it's just money really a lot of the time. It's down to money, it's down to be willing to play the game long enough and manoeuvre yourself and being cunning, and just kind of a lot of the time just being an utter dirtbag and just a shitty human being really. But if that's what it means to get success, then I'd rather just not bother. I'm not interested really. Leave it to the narcissists, the sociopaths, the psychopaths of this world, because that's usually what makes up the vast majority of people who are successful in life. So it certainly seems that way. 14. Friendships are transactional. I think friendships, relationships, romantic relationships often are transactional. Like, I've got something for you, you've got something for me, let's stay together for in this particular situation, or for this length of time because it benefits us both, and then when it's not benefiting us anymore, then we'll draw it to a close one way or another. Sometimes it's toxic and ugly, sometimes it's amicably. So it is often down to what there's a mutual interest in some ways, but it's often built on something else. It's often built on the foundation of whatever it might be. Access to resources, money, access to women, access to kind of climbing the social class ladder in a way. It's often built out of trauma, emotional issues, insecurities. Friendships are often built out of trying to sort of find a jigsaw piece to yourself, that kind of type of situation. I think a lot of the time, I think a lot of the time friendships die when they should die, and it's better to leave them alone and to leave them well in the past and to move on to new situations and new people, because you change, they change, and they probably don't feel the same about you than you do about them anyway, if they even think about you at all. Once, like I've said a million times before, once people start heading down the route of having a family and starting getting into getting quite serious about their job or career, it's getting over basically. It's like, most people don't stay friends with the vast majority of the people that they've been friends with for the majority of life. That's just a reality. But yes, you might be lucky if you cling on to a few, a handful of friends throughout the years, the decades. But for most people, you might only have one or two decent, true friends that you can, or a handful at least. But even then, a lot of it's still transactional. It could be that, that person gives you some sense of happiness and joy because they're funny, maybe because the other person's grounding in some way, you've got a bit of an ego, so you need someone that grounds you. It might be someone has faith in you, belief in you, and you don't have it in yourself, so you kind of, in a way, kind of like, it's just friendships are often opportunities really for self-discovery, sort of empowerment and evolution, personal evolution, and a lot of it's often not realised until friendships end and you've got a bit more clarity on things and perspective on it. But yeah, you've got to be very careful with the people that you decide to become friends with. If you even become friends, and I think it's more of a natural thing really, that you're just drawn to people, certain people. Mental illness is overdiagnosed. I touched upon that in, can't remember what that was, part 2, part 3 or something. Okay, I think there's just been an earthquake. That was scary. Whoa, that's weird, man. Holy shit. Whoa. Holy fuck. That was weird. Yeah, we just had an earthquake. Fuck, man. Well, that was unexpected. Jesus. The house is moving like fuck. Holy fuck, man. Woo! Fuck me, that was scary. I thought I was going mad. That was scary as fuck. Holy shit. Well, that was definitely unexpected. Oh, fucking hell, I almost fucking shit myself. That was an earthquake. Holy shit. Holy fuck, man. That was really scary. Holy crap. Oh. Oh. Let me just get myself composed. Holy shit, I've never experienced an earthquake in my life. That was really weird. Oh, I thought I was going nuts. I just felt like I was like sitting here, I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? I was just like, I just felt the bloody ground moving. I was just like, whoa, what on earth is going on? And as you can tell, the dog's playing up. People have come out the houses. That was really weird, man. Yeah, that was bizarre. I wish I could have had the camera that were around. I would have seen the lights in the kitchen moving. Wow. That is bizarre, man. That is really weird. Well, you know what? There's always a first time for something, isn't there? And I've got to be honest, that's the very first time I've ever experienced an earthquake in my life. That was really strange. I'll carry on in a minute, just give me a second. Whoa, fucking hell. I thought I was like hallucinating or something. I was just like, my chair's like wobbling or something. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I thought I was like tripping or something. I was like, what on earth? Oh, crazy. That was scary. Man, that really caught me off guard. Holy shit. Holy fuck, man. Oh, fucking hell. I don't know what that was on the scale, but that was pretty strong. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna carry on now, but man, if you've never experienced an earthquake before, fucking hell. Sorry about the language, but that really scared me. My parents have had felt one before, but I've never. That's the very first time in my entire life I felt the effects of an earthquake, and it was like being on acid or something. It's like really strange. It's like this wobbling sensation. It's like, man. That was crazy. Oh. Yeah, I need a drink. I need to have a drink. Just give me a second. Sorry about this. I didn't mean to pause for so long, but obviously I was not expecting that to happen today. Holy fuck, man, that was scary. My dogs are just sitting there like nothing happened. I was like, whoa, man, holy shit. Whew. Man, that was crazy. Well, I hope I never experience that again in my life. I really don't want to experience that ever again. Oh, man. Oh. That is the weirdest thing, man. It's such a weird sensation to just have the ground moving beneath your feet like that. It's so weird. I was just talking about how vulnerable before, talk about special. The earth's special, man. The earth is special. The tectonic plate below it, that's special. The raw power of nature, man. It's just nothing comes close to it. Nothing. It's just... Wow. Right, let's continue. Hope it doesn't happen again. That'll be the end of this video, I think. Ooh. That gets your heart rate going. Bloody hell. Oh. Oh man, I can't even focus. Oh. It's like jumping off a cliff or some shit. Oh, it's bizarre, man. Bizarre. Holy crap. Oh, glad I experienced it. That was incredible. Scary, but incredible. Oh, Earth doesn't fuck about, man. Nature does not fuck about. I just love it. That's one of the things I love about being alive. Is just every now and again you experience something new, something different in nature, and you just think, wow, that is inspiring. That is just like crazy stuff. I don't know if there's going to be an aftershock. I don't know if there's going to be another one at some point, but oh man, that was weird. That was really trippy. Because I took some supplements earlier. I was just like vitamin A, B, C, and some other stuff. And I was thinking, oh god, I haven't developed some side effects from taking so many supplements or something. I was just like, what is going on here? Like, why is the ground moving under my feet? And I was just looking because we're behind the camera there's the kitchen, and I could see the lights moving. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, we're having an earthquake. And I thought, wow, it's quite strong as well. I mean, it wasn't like the I don't know. We'll probably find out in the news over the next few days. I imagine where it was on the scale. But I really hope that doesn't happen again. Good God, that's weird. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, right? Honestly, you just cannot make it up. The next one is mental illnesses overdiagnosed. 15 mental illnesses overdiagnosed. I mean, what are the chances that it just happened to be there? It's like, what on earth? It says discomfort is often medicalized, pathologizing normal sadness or anxiety. Are we medicating them? Yeah, I touched upon that. I think it was in part 2. I'm kind of getting a bit paranoid now. kind of I'm on alert. It doesn't happen again. But yeah, mental illness. I think it is probably overdiagnosed. Certainly in the NHS in England, I think there's too many people claiming to be sick that aren't sick. 16. I don't want to go too far into each of these because I know my videos can go on for too long and I don't want them to. So, look, there's a difference between somebody actually genuinely having serious mental health problems and someone that's putting it on for whatever reason. So, yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the next one now. 16. Tribalism is human nature. I think it's true, especially when it comes to things like art, music, political ideas, political movements. I think we are tribal because we often collectivise with I'm still trying to get over it. I'm sorry. It was a bit unexpected, a bit of a surprise. I think we are tribal creatures. I think we do often collectivise with people that look like us, sound like us, are similar to us in many ways, character, personality. That's why we have rich friendship groups. So we are tribally based, whether we like it or not. Whether we should remain that way is a different matter altogether. Oh dear, please don't tell me it's going to happen again. Yeah, I can feel them. I think there's an aftershock. I can see the lights moving again. Oh god. Yeah, it's moving again. I don't know if you can see that on me. I don't know if there's any movement on me. Yeah, you can see there. I think that was an aftershock, I think. I just saw the lights moving again. So bizarre, man. Bloody hell, it's scary. That is really scary. Yeah, the lights are still moving. I'm going to carry on now. I don't know what the hell is going on here. I don't know if it's really strange. Just give me a second, I'm sorry. I really didn't expect this to happen today, obviously. I have no idea. And who does when these things happen? Just give me a second. Bloody hell, man. That was crazy. That was really, really crazy. I don't want to keep banging on about it, but yeah, that was definitely one of the weirdest of experiences in my life. That was definitely a memorable moment, that's for sure. God, very much caught me off guard, that. Number 17, some traditions should die. I think, yeah, if it's a tradition that essentially promotes animal abuse, animal cruelty, or something that's just very outdated, it shouldn't have any place in the modern world, really. Then yeah, I think so, probably. But I mean, if it's something that's like supposed to respect, supposed to represent modern, like woke culture and ideology and all that kind of stuff, then I'm not sure about that, really. probably. I don't know if it's something that doesn't cause anybody any harm, and it's not anything real problematic, then I don't particularly see an issue with it really. As far as I'm concerned, it's okay. Sorry, I've just kind of a little bit unsettled by that. Yeah, it really caught me off guard. Oof. I've never experienced one before, so I'm sorry if I'm overacting a little bit, being a bit dramatic, but yeah, it's just really weird. Really weird. I mean, it's just weird when you feel the ground underneath you moving like that. It's just like so strange, you know? It's really unsettling, it's really quite eerie. Because I was just like, I felt the ground underneath, it was like wobbling, it was like water almost. It felt like a kind of like a wave. And I was just like, what is going on? I was just like, am I going crazy or something? And I saw so weird. Oh my god. Oh, that was weird. That was really weird. I'm trying to focus now. I can't focus anymore. I can't focus anymore now. Oh my god, that was really strange. Oh. Right. So yeah, I think as long as it's something that's still relevant in some way, it's respectful, doesn't cause anybody any harm, no one's getting hurt really. I don't particularly see a problem with it carrying on certain traditions. I think it's a good thing. I think it's good to have some heritage that some legacy that continues on in some way. Number 18, spirituality is coping, not enlightenment. Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. I used to be a bit more into that kind of stuff at one time. I used to kind of. Yeah, sorry. It just shows you how unpredictable life can be. How vulnerable things can be on this planet. When you least expect something to happen. Like, I had no idea when I woke up this morning that I was going to experience an earthquake today. I have no idea. You just never know in life. You never know what's around the corner. You never know what's coming, which is a good thing in a way, but also not. And going back to this, spirituality, that's probably why it is a coping mechanism, because life is so unpredictable, it's so short-lived, it's so fragile, that things can, it's easy to get trapped, it's easy to get, when people cling on to religion and philosophy and, tarot card readings and palm readings and, looking into the spirit, the paranormal and all that kind of stuff, it's definitely, it makes you question things at the very least, whether spirituality is entirely a coping mechanism or whether there's an element of enlightenment to it. I don't know, there probably is a bit of both, but I would imagine it's probably more of a coping mechanism more than anything else. But we all certainly have epiphanies in life, moments of clarity and enlightenment, so you can't deny that. But I think a lot of the time when people buy into like crystals and meditation and things, I think it's often born out of an unfulfilled life, a life of trauma and a lot of problems. So I don't think I'm going to have time to go through all 50 here. I was planning on doing so, but I didn't expect that earthquake to hit. So I'm probably going to go through about 30 here, and I'll probably make one more video after this along sort of similar grounds, and I think probably at that point that'll be enough. I don't think we need to go through any more of these. Justice is really revenge. talked about revenge on another channel. I think what I'm going to do is I'll go through them just briefly, the ones I've touched upon before, but I won't go through them in great depth. So is justice revenge? I think some revenge could be justified as being justice, in my opinion, especially if the police, the legal system aren't really doing anything, and sort of, it's sometimes vengeance is justified in certain circumstances, in my opinion. 20 people prefer entertainment over truth, absolutely, hence why social media became such a giant, why the internet took off, why TV became so popular throughout 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, until very recently. That's why entertainment is such a massive industry, that's why so many people go to concerts, to stand-up events, to music events, etc. People want to believe a lie, people want to buy into something that's a distraction, that takes them away from the reality of life. Fake news, clickbait stuff, all the stuff you see on YouTube these days, all this just garbage content. There's so much of it on TikTok as well. It's an addiction. It's an easy distraction, isn't it? God, that was weird. I'm sorry to keep saying it, but yeah, that was really strange. I haven't felt like that since I took acid in 2013, I think it was. 21, toxic relationships are addictive. Yeah, I've talked about that as well. I think a lot of people are sort of naturally drawn toward toxicity because it fills you with adrenaline, it fills you with dopamine, it's more interesting, it's sort of dangerous, isn't it? It's dangerous territory, it's that fight or flight kind of thing. I think some people are just, a lot of people just want to engage in drama and the thrill of the chase, the thrill of that dangerous kind of, knowing that something could go terribly wrong. It's kind of like an adrenaline junkie type thing, isn't it? It's almost like a sport to some people. 22, success requires moral compromise. Talked about that already before. I think, things like being able to be deceitful and manipulative without really thinking too much about it, having any kind of guilt or regret. I think that's is part of it. Nepotism is a part of it. I just think that it's often about people being willing to set any kind of sense of morality and any sort of morality aside for the sake of getting who you want or what you want out of life. So when people say you've got to work hard, you've got to work harder than everybody else and put more effort in, it's like that's really not the truth for the most part, in my opinion. In fact, I think a lot of the time that's just utter bullshit, really, absolute just utter garbage, honestly. 23, power corrupts everyone. It's a kind of similar thing. I think a lot of the time certain people are naturally drawn toward positions of authority and power because they're narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, morally bankrupt individuals with no sense of compassion or empathy for anybody else. They're just naturally self-serving, greedy, no consideration for anybody else. They want what they want, whatever that. It's not just about power. It's more about control of it, the status, the ego that's involved in that. And I think a lot of the time it does corrupt people in various different ways, whether that's externally or internally, and it often eventually leads to people's downfall, or people who would try to do good things end up becoming corrupted, or decent people who actually genuinely want to do decent things find themselves getting sidelined and singled out, and some realise that they belong to a very corrupt system that doesn't support the likes of them. So, yeah. 24, most people want to be followers. I think a lot of people do want to be followers because it's easier to follow rather than to lead. It's easier to be blindly loyal and not question things, and it is to actually stand up and be countered and say things, uncomfortable things about leadership, and actually to be in a position of authority, to have real responsibility, to have other people's lives reliant on you for various different things. I just think it's easier for a lot of people. That's why most people don't ever become leaders and never will, because they just don't have it in them. They don't have what it takes. 25, justice systems are about control. I think a lot of times it's more about maintaining a sense of civility and, yes, control in terms of government and powerful authorities. But it is also there partly to try and filter out the people in society that shouldn't probably ever have been allowed to be a member of it, or certainly should be allowed to stay in it for all sorts of criminal reasons. So I think it does. But then again, you talk about fairness and equality and all that sort of level. It's different when people in real positions of power and authority and political positions do break the law because they have to get away with it. So there really is a double standard factor going on there. A real system, unfair system that's built on double standards for those that have money and power and know the right people and everybody else. And if you belong to the majority, then you're often it doesn't matter. If you break the law, you go to jail, and if you're part of the minority, the rich, the wealthy types, then if you can pay enough money, if you can keep someone's mouth shut, or you can bribe somebody, then you get away with it. 26, religion is fear of death. Absolutely, yeah. Over the years, I've come more and more into that line of thinking. When I was younger, I kind of had a bit of a kind of superficial belief, I was kind of like pseudo-religious in a way, I suppose, sort of. But as I got on my mid to late teens, I no longer really had any faith in religion, and I certainly didn't really believe in things like concepts of heaven and hell, really. I think probably I'm kind of more inclined to believe things like reincarnation more than anything else these days, if anything at all. But I think ultimately it just comes down to mortality, and that we fear our own deaths. It's not an easy thing to confront, the fact that one day you're going to die, and that's it. That's probably all. That's all there is. That's it. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no other life. There's no other world. Probably. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows the answer to that. Sometimes I kind of thought there might be something to the paranormal, maybe to some extent. Who knows? There might be something to it. I don't know, but I suspect my gut instinct at the time of this video is that there isn't anything beyond this the biological machine that is the brain, and that once that ceases to operate, that's lights out, it's done, you're finished, it's over. Your life has come to an end, and will never exist again. Which in a way is kind of comforting, but I can understand why people turn to religion as a way of dealing with that, or other ways of sort of kind of putting curtains over those difficult feelings and thoughts. 27, parenting ruins lives, but it's taboo to say it. So I agree with that. I think so many people end up with kids that they had no idea were going to be so rebellious and so troublesome and problematic in various ways, whether it might be psychologically, emotionally, academically. And I think just in the end, a lot of parents probably end up in a place like, just give them on. They'll provide for them, they'll give them what they need, but they've basically got no hope for them. And I think they probably regret having those kids at a certain point. Maybe when they get older they might feel differently, but maybe when they're still young, or when, especially when they're going through those unruly teenage years, they probably do regret it, because sometimes during those very difficult periods where hormones are high, I was the same when I was a teenager. It's easy to blame everything on your parents, and sometimes it is your parents' fault actually. Some things were your parents' fault, and they end up they're down on wrong. So, but the kids can ruin the parents' life very easily, very quickly. Which in some ways, there's some types of people that's a good thing, and for others it's not. It's unfair. We don't live in a fair and just world, do we? Let's face it. 28, performing morality, being moral. Social media virtue signalling. Yeah, I've talked about this before. I've really got to the point now where I no longer want to listen to anybody that's virtue signalling or kind of overdoing it with the ethically conscious, morally conscious kind of rhetoric and political point scoring, social, cultural manoeuvrability with regards to being seen as morally righteous and the do-gooders of this world. And I think the vast majority of people don't really care about doing what's right and being moral. I think they just care about being seen as maintaining a good image and feeling better about themselves, because really deep down they're probably not very nice individuals. 29, social media fuels narcissism. Yes, it does, especially on TikTok, Instagram, OnlyFans, a lot of dating websites. I think pornography does this as well in many ways. But certainly things like YouTube, where you've got this YouTube culture of like and subscribe, hit the bell, all this crap, and this constant, ongoing, never-ending grifting culture that you see so often now, and so many different areas and niches of YouTube over the last 5 to 10 years. Just ongoing, never-ending echo chambers. Especially, Twitter X used to be like that quite a lot. It still is to some extent, but I think now we're seeing a lot more of it play out on YouTube. And we're just so self-absorbed, so obsessed with our own egos these days, and maybe to some extent I'm a part of that in a way, I suppose. Maybe I am. I won't say I was a narcissist, but I suppose to some extent I probably do like the sound of my own voice in certain ways, but it's not because I've got a massive ego, but just because I know that I'm right about certain things, and I don't feel guilty about that. 30, I think what I'll do is I'll go to 40 and I'll bring it to an end, and I'll carry on with probably the last 50 or so, I reckon, in an extra final video, and then that will bring this whole series to a close. Okay, so world peace is impossible. I think I talked about that before. I hope I haven't covered these before in a previous video. I don't think I have. Fully anyway, maybe not quite the same as this. So, world peace is impossible. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it is, because there's not enough resources, there's too many people, or at least for the time being, there's not enough effective, efficient solutions to dealing with those two areas that rely on each other. So, I think maybe if the global population was a lot less, it probably would be possible in some ways. And then again, having said that, it might be because of the fact that the population is getting big that we need to find world peace to survive as a species, and find real solutions to resource scarcity and fair access to resources, and dealing with recycling of raw materials and all that kind of stuff. Water, getting clean water, coming up with new innovative ways of getting and reusing resources and so on, and probably doing away to some extent with this over-the-top globalism, capitalism, consumerism-based culture that we've lived in for the last 40, 50 years. I think we've got to get away from that. We've got to get away from these giants like Amazon and the internet culture of retail and online shopping and all that kind of stuff, and just excesses in all direction. I don't think that can't be the future, in my opinion. It really can't. We've got to get away from that. We've got to get more down to local produce, local independent stores, and I think or at least we've got to reduce the amount of these massive chains and supermarkets and all that kind of stuff. This mass-produced capitalist-based society that we found ourselves in, with untold websites selling God knows how many of the same products. That's not sustainable. Anyone with 2 brain cells knows that. 31, some victims contribute. Let me just make sure. Some victims contribute to outcomes. Yeah, I think some people actually kind of in the end deserve what they get. People say you get the government you deserve, or maybe you get the life you deserve sometimes. Especially if you've been a really shitty, horrible, unpleasant individual to people over the years, maybe you get what you deserve in the end. I don't know. It's I think some people just get what they get. The karma gets served eventually for certain people, and I have no sympathy for some of them. Addiction is partly choice. I think initially, yeah, it is. People choose to take drugs, but I think over time it becomes harder and harder to get away from it, because it sucks you in, and you kind of get trapped in a kind of it's like a vacuum almost. You get trapped in the vacuum bag, and it's hard to work your way out of it, I guess. So I don't think it's a disease. I think it's an impulse thing, really. It's a lack of impulse control initially, but I think over time it becomes an addiction, and unintentionally becomes a life choice, and it becomes harder and harder to get out of it. And it is about mentality to some extent, but I think to some extent it becomes a disease. It's a progressive mental disease. You become addicted to something, and because you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with emotional problems, psychological problems, and you can't see another way out of it, you can't see another way to deal with it, and so it becomes an addiction because of that. And those people at that point usually need years of help, to get out of it, if they ever can, really. 33, empathy is limited and selective. Kind of talked about that a bit before. I think empathy is a useful thing to have. It's a good thing to have, but it can also be a curse in the same way, because it can make you feel things about other people's lives and situations that you don't really want to feel. It's nothing to do with you, but you can't help but feel it. You can see things in people. You can kind of tell when certain things are off with people when you have empathy. It's not an easy life to live, because you've got your own problems, and sometimes you kind of unintentionally pile on other people's problems on top of them. So you've got to be very careful. But yeah, I think it is sometimes selective and limited to people that we get along with, we like, whatever, for whatever reasons. Yeah, very bizarre. But I don't think it's true that no real empathy exists. I think there are people out there who actually have real empathy for others, people that they've never, you can have empathy with people you've never met before on the street. Someone's fallen over, hurt themselves, someone's been mugged, so you try and go in and try and help them, you try and help some animal in distress, or whatever it might be. So I think it's a mixed bag, really. 24, hierarchy is necessary. I think when it comes to having the right people for leadership, I think you have to have certain types of people who can actually lead and make difficult decisions, because otherwise nothing would ever get done, nothing would ever change in life. So you do have to have some kind of meritocracy in society, I think. Yeah, but that has its own problems. That it's no easy path to anything in life. There are always going to be problems with the people at the top, the people at the bottom, the people in the middle. There's always going to be complexities and nuances of things. I think it's important to have the right character, the right personality in leadership, whereas people respect you because of the things that you do rather than the things that you say, and to have followers who are not just blindly loyal to you, but question you as well, make you a better leader and make the team a better entity. It's not about the leader versus the followers kind of thing. It's a unit. It should be a unit. Everybody plays a part. Everybody has a role, and everybody should be at the most competent levels that they can possibly be at. Would it be better to have a complete system of equality? I mean, in an ideal world, yeah, but then I don't think it would work. You have to have some degree of competition, because that's how you get the best. It's how you get to the best of anything, I suppose. But it also has to be fair as well. So I don't know. It's difficult. You do need leaders, but you do need followers as well. They're hand in hand, really. They're part of the package. 35. Passion doesn't pay. A lot of the time, no, it doesn't. Great artists throughout history, great musicians throughout history, often ended up broke, in debt. Not having many people there at the funerals, not really ever being truly recognised for their compositions, their art, their sculptures, their paintings, until after the death. Often people are more popular and have a better reputation when they're dead than they ever did when they were alive, and often don't get the recognition they deserve until they've died. So yeah, it's really an unfortunate part of life, I think. And often passions just don't pay anyway. Passions often get exploited. People manipulate artists, musicians, and all the rest. Anyone that's involved in a kind of creative art, whatever that entails. It's often gets bought out, and often people sell themselves to the devil for the sake of survival, money, rather than doing what. I think sometimes it's better off just not making your passion into a kind of business or anything if you can avoid it, because you should do it really as a pastime. Do it as something because you want to do it rather than because you want to get paid for it. It's better to have another job really and do your passion in your free time. In my opinion, that's what I've always done with regards to like writing poetry, DJing, like creating videos and stuff like that. I never intended. I don't see myself as an artist really anyway, but I'm just saying that even if I was, I wouldn't want to do it for a living. I wouldn't want to monetize it. That's why I kind of feel sorry for some of these YouTubers that monetize everything. So I get you want to bring in money, but I just think it can become a double-edged sword in a way. I don't know. You've got to be careful. 36. Selfishness is survival. I think when under certain circumstances, yes, it is. When there are very limited resources, then yes, I suppose you have to be selfish to survive. But when there's enough resources there for everybody, then I don't think it is. It's just purely out of greed. Unfortunately, greed rules the world a lot. I think ever really since the point where we industrialised things and agriculture became a business, and once one party, one individual gets more greedy than the other, it's just game over at that point, really. It's like, I don't know. It's like yes. It depends what kind of selfishness we're talking about. It's like sometimes you have to be selfish for the sake of moving on in your life, you know, for the sake of change, for the sake of your own well-being, your own mental health. But in terms of like pure survival, like food and water, it's like, if there's enough around, there's no need for you to be selfish, really. You just have to wait your turn and go and get yours, you know. But make sure that you've deserved it, I suppose. You know. We need to work more as a unit rather than individuals, you know. That's the problem. We used to be more of a collective-based society, and we've moved too far to the other end now. We've got to move back, I think. That's the future for humanity, in my opinion. 37, censorship increases appeal. Banning content gives it power. Yeah, I think it does, because more people are likely to jump on board and support it because they deem it to be unfair and you know, power imbalance. So you see it a lot on YouTube with, you know, new sort of media, alternative media channels popping up, and some of them getting targeted. Certain politicians getting targeted because they're saying, you know, inconvenient, uncomfortable things about controversial areas of political policy and things like that. And people often rally behind them. Some of them rightfully so, some of them not. So I don't know. I think, I don't think we should be banning content and people unless it becomes really seriously problematic and almost borders on becoming a serious threat in some way, you know, in terms of it becoming politicised or for really nasty intentions. 38, jobs aren't equally valuable. Talked about that a little bit in, I think, the first video I did. You know, is the cleaner less valuable than the doctor? Depends, I suppose. You know, I don't know. It depends, because certain people's. It depends on a lot of things. Like, it depends who those people's lives affect. You know, it depends on the consequences of those people not doing those things, I suppose. You know, it's like, I'd say all jobs are valuable, but whether all jobs are equally valuable, but I don't know, I'm not sure, probably not. But that doesn't mean that people shouldn't get respect, people should get a decent wage for what they do, regardless of whether it's unskilled or low skilled work. People should still get a decent salary for it. I don't think that people at the very top echelons of careers and jobs should get paid a lot of the money that they get paid, in my opinion, because, you know, I just don't think that that's right. They should obviously get more than other people, but I think often people are massively overpaid, whereas a lot of people are underpaid or don't get a pay rise for years. They're stuck in dead-end jobs and careers, and, you know, I think society should reward people who make an effort, regardless of what it is. You know, rather than living on benefits and doing nothing. You know, people should be given some recognition and respect for getting off their ass and doing something with life, regardless of what it is. That deserves respect. Yeah, it might not be the same respect to someone that's a neurosurgeon or an astronaut or an astrophysicist or something like that. But I think as long as you're making an effort, you deserve some degree of respect and recognition and value, in my opinion. 39, humans can't control nature. I think as time goes on, that will probably be challenged quite significantly. I think over the next century or two, we might be able to start controlling to some degree our environment, but at least if we can't control it directly, maybe we can put some things in place that can mitigate against certain environmental threats and potential disasters that might be coming down the line, including, you know, super strange viruses, you know, the effects of climate change, you know, natural resource depletion, rising ocean sea levels and all that kind of stuff. Or maybe it won't. Maybe we'll just reach a point where we just don't have enough resources to really deal with things anymore. Until we can start getting out into the solar system and start collecting resources from the moon, Mars, and neighbouring planetary bodies in our own solar system, asteroids and so forth. moons of the gas giants. 40, relationships involve manipulation. I think a lot of the time, especially with women, because there's so many options, so many, they can play men against each other in terms of the competition game, and kind of got back to that kind of primitive, primal instinct of, the alpha male sort of being the dominant one, the winner takes it all, as the Abrazon says, that kind of thing, and women often being manipulative for all sorts of reasons: stability, security, sex, financial gain. Of course, men can just be as bad as well. Lying, having affairs, lying about various things to stay in the marriage because they want access to the kids. But that can work the other way around. So it's manipulation on all sides. Unfortunately, this is just the reality of most romantic relationships. It might not necessarily always be some like serious level manipulation, but I can guarantee there's some manipulation going on somewhere between one of them or both at some point, especially later on when the novelty wears off and the flood of emotions period, the romantic obsession kind of disappears as it naturally does. 41, people resent loved ones. I think, especially if we've got something they don't have, they want, whether it's a better looking partner, a better lifestyle, money, a better house than they've got, a car, then maybe they have more holidays, they're more interesting, they're more, it could be a lot of things really, a lot of things. But people, there's resentment in all areas of society, between professionals, between artists, between loved ones, even in marriages and relationships, between friends, and often people don't talk about it, but it's there and people can see it. Various obligations or duties or chores even can build up resentment. Saying too much, not saying enough, you name it. There's all sorts of reasons why people end up resentful and bitter at others. You have to look at ex-partners and ex-friends, and I'm sure some people are probably resentful toward me. I'm certainly resentful towards some people for various reasons. Honesty is, it's usually the best policy, but often, in my experience, most people they don't have it in them, they don't have the capacity to truly be honest and open, to deal with things in a transparent way, because they fear you, they see you as a threat to some extent, because you're supposed to play the game of, keep what's in your head, and say things and do things that I like and I agree with and I support, rather than telling the truth and being open and honest about how you feel and what you think. 42, good versus evil is fake. I don't think that's true. I think there are some people in this world who are genuinely just very, very horrible individuals. Very early on, people commit horrific crimes against people, against animals, sometimes against their own family or friends for whatever reasons. Inheriting money, property, doing one over on someone, making someone jealous, making someone bitter, testing someone's buttons, testing someone's tolerance and patience in a situation. Those people are scum as far as I'm concerned. I think it's more about whether good exists, and the older I'm getting, the more that I'm seeing that I think good is very subjective, and if good does exist, it's actually extremely rare, and maybe only limited to maybe a million, maybe even less than 1 million people, in my opinion, in the entire world, when you narrow everything down for various filters. Psychopathy and the various guises of manipulation and get the more negative areas of people's characters and personalities and issues that make people become unpleasant, unlikable, etc. 43, fear fuels authoritarianism. I think a lot of the time that's why people try to play the game of society, let's say. Because I mean, society is really just a kind of, it's really a made-up concept. It doesn't really exist, I suppose. It's really more something that people play into, people play along with, because they fear the backlash that happens when you don't follow it properly, or the labels that might come with you battling against it, standing out against the crowd, challenging everything and everyone, the beliefs, the structures, the systems that are in place, people seeing you as a threat to their stability in the position of power that they have, or at least saying things that could influence others to an extent where things could change and topple authoritarianism in whatever means that is, whether that's at work, whether that's in your family, whether that's in local authorities, the government, big organisations, corporations, and all the rest of it. Anyone that sees you as a threat will somehow try to ruin your character in some way or other. So I think fear often is what allows societies to become so false, so superficial in many ways on the surface level, because people want the benefits that come with abiding by the rules and the laws that are set by the authorities, and anyone that goes against that goes against the grain, that starts saying things that might upset the status quo, the norms, the accepted behaviour that has benefited those people in positions of power and authority for so long, then you will start to find that you have serious problems in your life very, very quickly. 44, capitalism rewards exploitation. I think it probably does. I think there's a lot of problems with the capitalist system. It just leads to too much corruption, too much greed, too much exploitation, too much self-serving agendas, and just greed, or just more and more greed, more and more mass-produced, just less quality, just all about quantity rather than quality, and that applies to people. It's not about people being decent and good people and trying to make the world better for everyone. It's just about abusing the system, getting rich, wealthy as fast as you possibly can, screwing over any kind of competition that gets in the way. And I think it's a highly, highly flawed system that needs either radical reform, or we need something completely new. And I think probably I tend to lean towards the latter, really. I don't think you can reform. I think it's too far gone at this point. So I think we do need some radical new system in place in the coming decades, because natural resources are getting depleted all the time, and over the course of the next 50 years, or at least within a century, let's say, a lot of those resources will be pretty much non-existent, more or less. So we need something that we need a system that supports healthier, productive, less exploitation on the environment, less exploitation on that. So it looks like we're probably going to get another earthquake here, apparently. in about probably the next five minutes maybe. So I hope, I'm going to try and get to the end of these now very quickly, because looks like we're going to have another earthquake here, apparently my wife just told me. So I'm going to get through these as quickly as I possibly can before that happens. I hope it doesn't happen again, because I've been on this video now quite a while. And yeah, grief is performative. I think people sometimes use public displays of annoyance, of grief, irritation for their own needs sometimes. I think, in my opinion, grief is something that should be dealt with in private a lot of the time. We're very close, very valuable, close ones, friends, family members. Everyone's a hypocrite. Yeah, I think a lot of people are hypocrites. There's a lot of double standards. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on in all sorts of areas of society, especially among friends, especially in relationships. I think just the nature of life itself just makes. I think we're just very, very flawed as a species, and hypocrisy just seems to be part of it, unfortunately. 47, civilization is fragile. Yeah, I think personally it's inevitable now. I think we're heading towards a point where civilization, I think, will probably collapse within the next few decades if things don't change with regards to capitalism, globalism. I think there seems to be a lot more instability going on around the world, and if climate change is going to get worse over the next few decades, I think it could bring civilizations to a collapse. I really believe that, actually. 48, unconditional love is rare. I've kind of talked about that, touched on it before, but I think it exists with older people, with certain family members, among people that really genuinely care about their pets, and with their children, babies, things like that. So I think there is some truth to it. Love is a real thing, but I think real genuine love is rare in certain circumstances. It's actually quite rare, probably overall. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe it seems to be quite rare. 49, humans might self-destruct. Yeah, going back to the civilization collapse thing. I think as time goes on, AI takes over, quantum computing might take over at some stage in many ways, and as we realise that less and less and less is available for us to do, I think at some point our species will no longer really have any purpose, any reason to exist anymore, and we'll probably just wipe ourselves out, or we will just eventually face so many threats naturally from the environment that will probably become extinct, or the vast majority of people will, in some way or other, I suspect our species will be gone within a few thousand years, in my opinion. That's what I predict. Finally, number 50, because I want to bring this video to a close. Happiness is unnatural. I've kind of talked about that a bit on my channel before. I don't think real happiness happens very often. I think it's very fleeting, and I think it's very subjective, and I think that's probably all I can really say about it. I think it's not as common as people like to try and make out to be, and often it's something that you have to fight for and really appreciate in the moment, because it's very short-lived. So I'm going to leave that there for today. I've covered 50 of those very interesting kind of unpopular beliefs or thoughts, areas, and I'm going to continue with this again in a final video, and that will be the end of the series, because I don't want to bore people to death. So I'm going to leave that there for today. Thank you very much for your time, and before this earthquake hits, I'm going to get off. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye, see you.